My name is Sandra Grauschop, and I'm the Customer Marketing Manager here at Loxo. I'm joined here today with Colin and Shannon, and we're going to talk to you about a mindset change that might help you build more repeatable, more reliable pipeline in 2026 without having to put in more and more effort. This webinar will be recorded and sent to everyone who's registered for it. So you don't have to worry if you have to leave early. We hope you'll stay, but we will send it to you to review later. We're going to send you some additional information as well. Mostly today, we're going to focus on the idea behind this mindset, but we'll send you some information about how to implement it too. And secondly, there will be a Q&A section at the end. We ask you to put any questions you have into the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We won't be answering live any questions that you ask in the chat, so make sure to use that Q&A option if you want Colin or Shannon to answer for you. We'll mostly be looking for questions to answer live that apply to everyone. If you have a question, like if you're a Loxo customer and have a question about your account, it's best to send that to our support team to manage. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Colin. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sandra. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to our first webinar of 2026. Excited to be here, excited to be leading the first one of the new year, and the big focus on obviously new year, new business development. For those that don't know, I am Irish, so I have an American wife, so that might help me slow down and enunciate for the session today. But just a bit of background on myself. So I've been with Loxo now for coming up to 4 years now. I lead our sales team for Europe, and I actually worked in recruitment prior to that. So I was a commerce finance recruiter in the Irish market in a contingent space for roughly 3 years. So you could probably call me a failed recruiter if you want. And some of the learnings that I've had in my time in recruitment have definitely propelled kind of why this discussion is here today. But a big talking point for today is around looking at some of the customers and potential customers that we've been speaking to over the last few years and helping them kind of achieve better goals for 2026 with their business development output. So I have my colleague Shannon here who'll be kind of coming into the end with the Q&A section. So Shannon, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Afternoon, everyone. Shannon is my name, as Colin and Sandra have mentioned. I'm a product specialist here at Loxo. I'm here to kind of help as I can. Been in the SaaS world for about 10 years now at this point, the majority of which has been assisting recruitment firms, all just like yourselves. Keen to get into it.
Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. So yeah, look, we're going to basically be talking for the next 20 minutes or so. And then we'll go into product for just a brief section, just to kind of whet the appetite a little bit. But yeah, and then we'll have the Q&A section at the end. So if you're like most recruitment leaders that we speak to, you could even be just a consultant, individual contributor, or a director within a business. You still start the year from zero, and you have this kind of whiteboard in front of you of how are we going to get to that goal, and having that familiar feeling in your gut that I have looking at the goals that we've set at Loxo for 2026. So we're always looking at the pressure to do more calls, more emails, but realistically, how much more time do we actually have? We're quite limited, and knowing how to build a desk from scratch myself, it's not easy and it's not straightforward. So what we want to be doing is kind of the same amount of work, but making sure that it compounds over time. So we're building clients for the future. So the goal of today is to have everyone kind of leave here with the mindset that we need to stop reacting to the market and start commanding our territories. So we are, this is very much me when I was in recruitment, the problem. So the volume game is what I'm alluding to here, which is kind of hitting a brick wall. And I've walked into that wall many times in my career. And we currently get stuck in the frantic trap. So we're very reactive. We generally have like this 5-star candidate. We want to flood them out to the market. The process generally becomes kind of a point in time strategy that, there's no need. We're trying to engage at a fast, rapid pace, but it ends up being kind of opportunity loss as opposed to gained. So all we do from here is kind of repeat that cycle, and it becomes a consistent kind of merry-go-round of sending the 5-star candidate and keep doing that same process over and over again. I also know that there'll be many people on this call that have built their business through referrals. And while they're a great way of building a business, they're quite passive as well. So by shifting the mindset from like, I guess the vendor to be more of a consultant mindset and stop taking kind of the orders, we'll get off that merry-go-round a lot quicker. So we can move on to the next one, Shannon. Thank you. So 2026 isn't, the message here isn't let's just do more and work harder. It's a mindset shift. So we're moving away from being kind of order takers to trusted advisors, that kind of consultative approach. So we're going to show you how to stop reacting to the market and start commanding your territory through high value MPCs, and getting them out to market, but doing that with structured kind of account-based prospecting. We have kind of become a bit of a commodity. We're viewed in our space as kind of resume service or CV service, where we're not that kind of strategic partner anymore. And I think it's high effort, high activity. When it lacks direction, it generally leads to kind of burnout for our team and a lack of billings overall. So the old way is kind of high volume. The new way relies on kind of precision and authority. And that's kind of what we're trying to sell today, or message today. So think about kind of being the vendor and the consultant, the order taker. We take on a job description, and we work our backsides off to get the right person into that role. Whereas the trusted advisor will kind of be more of a talent, extension to their business, and looking at kind of market reality and telling them, here is who you should hire, and this is the reason why you should hire them. So MPC. This one took a while for me to understand, being an Irishman. We don't say MPC in Ireland, we say spec candidate or speculative CV. But the most placeable candidate is basically the person that you think is an A-star candidate, and most audiences would want to speak to them. They're top tier talent, they're moving the needle with the clients and prospects that we're targeting immediately. And we're kind of reverse engineering what we would normally do. So the normal process in recruitment is we have a candidate, we have a job, and we fill that job with presenting candidates. This is the reverse of that. We're ideally trying to get an exclusive candidate and out to market so that we can represent them to the wider network. This is kind of a one-off strategy. It's a point in time strategy, as I've alluded to, and it becomes kind of more of a short-term game where we're trying to look to build more longevity with our prospects and customers. Account-based prospecting. So most people hopefully will have seen this inside Loxo. So we've built a new feature inside the platform, which is called account-based prospecting, or ABP. It's a strategic approach that focuses and helps you focus on high value specific accounts rather than the mass outreach where we're trying to blast out 200, 300 emails to individual leads. And it's kind of moving away from that spray and pray volume piece that I've alluded to, and more into that kind of precision of where we want to take our business moving into 2026. So we target high value accounts that strictly kind of match our core ICP, or ideal customer profile. And then what we want to do is kind of cast the net a little bit further. A lot of the time when we send off these MPCs, we're targeting individual hiring managers. We need to look at all decision makers in a business. Are we engaging with HR? My wife is a HR, and she says that recruiters never tap her up. They always go directly to her line managers. But there could be market intel that we're sharing with them. Most of the time, people on this call will have salary surveys and industry expertise that they want to present to HR. And also the C-suite. I think if we're not doing obviously executive search, the C-suite has to be brought in to that web of influence, and simultaneously just helping us build our business. Consultative partnership, I think, is important here, like making sure that, again, we're more of a consultative approach to how we work with these businesses. We're not just doing MPC as a standalone, that we're bringing more insights and knowledge, and that's how we level up and partner with the firms that we want to work with. So, going away from the burnout, low response rate, ABP is kind of working through kind of increasing that deal size, focusing on kind of the in-market, the high fit accounts that we want to work with today. And that's where we want to take things moving into 2026. So having more like predictable growth in your business. Working kind of the old way, you're not going to probably get there in 2026 with that approach. So having high customer lifetime value is going to be the real revenue engine for the future of your business. So the critical mindset, I think you need to go back one there, Shannon. Thank you. So removing kind of the guesswork. A lot of the time we're hoping that a point in time strategy will work. The MPC will get us there, and it can, and it does, and it gets us there generally. But overall, it's the process isn't what we want it to be. So leveraging the data to identify like which target companies are buying and hiring right now, that's key to success. And in Loxo today, you can identify and map those key stakeholders into your CRM in a matter of seconds. So you get to avoid the need for multiple tabs, manual research, and I'll get to that point when we get to the end of the presentation today. Thank you. So prioritizing kind of outreach, we need to look at like the buying signals. So we need to obviously, most importantly, keep in contact with our MPCs. They're going to be the ones that get us in the door. But the stakeholders, having that point in time strategy with them for specific things and meeting them when we want to execute is important. So deepening the relationship. So this is something that I've been pushing into my sales team, and I think most recruitment businesses that we're speaking to today are kind of, hoping to bring this into 2026. We have a single point of contact usually in a business. Rarely do we have multiple points of contact. And I think having that single point of contact results in a single point of failure. And we're kind of left with nothing at the end of it, because if that person moves on from the business, the relationship essentially is dead. So most opportunities do not die by that. They die because we're not because we're necessarily offering a bad product at a good time or a bad time. They die because the buying group isn't aligned, and that's where we're missing a trick. So we need to take action today, and I think identifying kind of who your top MPC candidates are, and instead of having 300, 400 businesses that we throw those candidates across to, we want to have target specific, like 20 to 30 ABP target accounts. And that's where you need to be spending 80% of your time and business development efforts in 2026 to help you build that data equity today. And multi-threading is it's all about building yourself as a known entity across their business. So if you're not bringing multiple stakeholders into your conversations, you're essentially not bringing that web of influence together. So the roadmap, looking at the roadmap for 2026, I guess are we asking ourselves this isn't set to any specific industry. Everyone will have different ways of focusing on the roadmap of who are our market leaders of tomorrow, who are the businesses that are actually moving and changing, who've got funding, who's growing in their recruitment teams. And then the research of that is actually the revenue and making sure that your business and your database becomes that source of truth. So even a no today adds intelligence to your database over time. An MPC, again, is that snapshot in time, but if you bring it together with the ABP mindset, it's a long-term gain, and you're focusing on future state of your business. So higher revenue, less friction, and something that will be obviously scalable in time. So I guess to focus on commanding your territory here before we dive into the platform for a few moments. 2026 is the year of the consultative partner, in my opinion. The spray and pray era is over. Everyone is using automation to, reach different groups, and I think it's becoming a dying trend. And it's time that we start commanding the territories that we want to work with. So avoiding the frantic trap, we have to stop reacting to the market. And remember, MPC and speccing candidates is not dead. We can still use them to open doors. So I guess if we continue to rely on volume, you're going to be a commodity. If you lead with market intelligence and intentional targeting, you're becoming an authority within that business. Remember that in 2026, if you want to be successful, you need to bring MPC to those gold accounts that we want to work with through ABP. And it's not just a one-off placement that you're getting. It's actually going to build for a lasting partnership in the future. So a bit of homework, I suppose, for the group before we dive into the platform for a few moments is MPCs. We need to start mapping who our key MPCs are today and targeting them towards our top 20 or 30 accounts. I know it says 5 there, but I won't hold people to 5 for MPC. If you want to do 2 or 3, we'll let you off the hook. But I think moving from that leads to partners is going to use more of a workflow that we want to be more targeted in our approach. So now that we've showed you what the messaging is for 2026, I guess we want to show you kind of how to do that today inside the platform. So I'll start sharing my screen if that's okay. So 1 second here. So I'm just going to kind of go into Loxo here, and I'm going to go into the whole ABP piece inside the platform. So we have Loxo source up here in the top right hand corner. And then what you have when you come in is your personas and your companies within here. Companies is where we're going to focus. So companies is obviously the ABP, where you can identify which companies you want to work with and map those companies from inside. You have your power filters here on the left-hand side. So you have Boolean, you can identify by specific company name, company size. I'll just start selecting on a few of these here. We could target a specific industry that we want to work with. So if it's the construction space, we can target their location. If I just put in something like Chicago, we can identify a company within the Chicago area, and then we can base off funding stage, founded, when that company was founded, their estimated revenues, and the growth stage, or if they're a profit, non-for-profit at that stage as well. We've aligned here with 280 companies. I won't go into the detail here because for most of you, you've probably seen our account-based prospecting webinar. We have a full webinar session on how to use this product, and obviously our outreach tool. This is just to give you a bit of a snapshot before we dive into the Q&A. So essentially, you can select all companies if you want to target 280, but that would go against the mold. We want to target the specific company, so you can identify the companies that you want to work with. And then the AI will help you find those decision makers within that organization. Now, bear in mind, my environment is not going to be specific to what you probably do today, but it will start feeding off the type of personas that you're targeting within these organizations. The other side of it is you can just target all employees across those companies, and then you can search by job title, location, or seniority. So you can bring in HR function and C-suite into that web of influence that we talked about. And then here you can identify a company. It could be any company here. And then you can go in and view the profile of that company if you just want to dive a bit deeper. Now, what you'll know here is Flexco are not in my existing CRM today. So I can save them to my database from here as a company that we potentially want to work with. I can see if I know anyone at that company today, which I don't. And then when I click on employees, this will give me everyone that works at that business today. And now I can start mapping the company directly to my CRM. So again, you can work by title, you can Boolean search, location, or seniority. You can bucket that company into a specific list that you want. So it could be a prospecting list that you're working on. And then from here, you can start fetching contact information on the people that you want to target, or you could just pin who you think are key contacts within that organization. And what you're doing now is you're building up your contact list in here, but by pinning them, they're actually going to be your key stakeholders within that organization. So your contacts have now grown to 2 people, but your overview page are your key stakeholders within that organization. And then what you can do from there is select on a person that you want to start targeting with that communication, and you can add them to the campaign that you've set up, which could be your ABP and MPC campaign, and add them, and then they'll start receiving that communication from there. And that's it. That's just a quick snapshot to bring you into the platform to give you an idea of what the system can do when it comes to ABP. And if you want to look at the webinar in more detail for ABP, we can share that around with the group after today's session. We'll open up for Q&A because I think we're at the kind of 20-minute mark now. So thank you.
Cool. So we have a good one here from Stacey, Colin. I'd love to how to meaningfully engage HR in the process when they're frequently a bottleneck. Seeing the external recruiter is only necessary because they don't have the bandwidth to fill the role. So basically, how do we actually include that we're not just completely bypassing HR as a whole, but actually make sure that they're included in the conversation?
Are you taking it, or do you want me to take it?
I was asking you, but I can take it if you like.
I can start it off. So, yeah, I think from experience when it comes to this, the multi-threading approach is always the best approach. So you're bringing multiple stakeholders in, and it could be you've had engagement with certain stakeholders within that organization. So if it's HR specifically, and you don't want to bypass, sometimes HR become the bottleneck, and you have to bypass them at times as well. It's the same for us if we're speaking to specific personas in an organization, we need to probably get to the CEO to get the final stakeholder that we want to be speaking to. So multi-threading is always going to be the best approach there. Shannon, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think I completely agree. Like when it kind of comes to more mature organizations, the more heads that are in a business, the more you want to multi-thread. If you're relying on a single sole person, even if you're not having friction from other stakeholders within the business, like if that person was to leave tomorrow, suddenly that's an account which is potentially lost for you. On that end, ideally you get the fee out of it if they do move, but yeah, but ultimately the bigger they are, the more important multi-threading becomes, to make sure that everyone's on the same page. How do we, this is one from Chris New, how do we find companies which are hiring and access them such that we can present our MPC? So I'll take this one, Colin. So at the moment, there's no field or filter to be able to search specifically for a company which has vacancies, right? However, we do have a growth section. So within ABP, there's 3 sections. I think it's early stage, mature, and growth.
Yeah.
So what growth is not necessarily, hey, this company has vacancies, but more we can see that they're growing at an accelerated rate, which would suggest that they are somebody who's going to be needing your services in the future. Is there an easy way to see if a company is already in your Loxo database? So again, I can table this one. Very, very easily. If you click on a company, any company at any point, in the top right hand corner, there's either going to be the option to save to database, or it's going to show their customer status on that end. Does selecting the company identify contacts that are not in your database using AI? It's going to do both. So they could be in your database and they might not be in your database. The reason that we choose to have both in, and you'll be easily able to identify who is and isn't in your database, but the reason that we have both in the one search is because you might have worked with a candidate 5 years ago and they weren't necessarily in Microsoft, who you're currently prospecting into, but they have since moved there. So that's an immediate in or a foot in the door that you would have with that person. Whereas if we didn't show you that, you might completely glance your eye over them on that end. How do we stay out of spam and blocking lists when we email? Do you want to take this one, Colin, or do you want me to take it? I don't mind either way.
Well, I think spam will always come down to like DNS scoring and how are you using it. So like you can put throttles in the back end of your system to make sure that you're like using the right safety limits, because everyone will have a different DNS scoring. You'll have people who have bad DNS scorings, which means they're landing in spam folders all the time, but trying to send out 10,000 emails per day. Again, with MPC and ABP as a combination, and the message we're trying to deliver here is that, it shouldn't be hundreds and hundreds of emails. So, if you're doing things in the right way, you're not gonna be reaching those spam folders. But we can throttle them to make sure that you're not over extending yourself with email automation.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. It comes back to the messaging. It's like we're more focusing on quality and not on volume here, for the most part.
Yeah. If you're going to send 10,000 emails with the new restrictions from Google and Microsoft, you're going to be pretty much hitting spam folders all day, every day.
Yeah. When multi-threading, should we include all stakeholders on the same outreach email, or should we target them separately? I think this is one of the ones where there's no right answer. I think there's opinions that go involved. I know where I stand, but do you want to throw your opinion in there, Colin?
Yeah, I think you don't want to hurt the opportunity at the same time. So you have to kind of flesh out who you're targeting and who you want to target specifically. But I think with multi-threading, it doesn't necessarily always have to be bringing the same people into the one thread all the time. You could have specific insights that a CFO might be interested in, but the financial controller is actively recruiting for his team. So the MPC might be good for that individual person, but then say, hey, look, I've been trying to get in contact with X person who's the financial controller, but for your insights, these are what we're seeing as market trends today. And, salary survey guides of like a qualified accountant in the Irish market is currently on 70K, who's, 1 year PQE. based on what I've heard, you guys are not hitting that, or whatever the context of the conversation needs to be. But I think multi-threading is when you kind of broke the door down with individual stakeholders as an individual first.
Yeah, and I think to kind of piggyback off that point, it doesn't all necessarily need to happen at one time, right? Multi-threading doesn't necessarily, it can, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're simultaneously attempting to reach out to 7 people within an organization, especially as we're trying to build long-term relationships. You can take, a 6-week sprint on Colin, and then a 6-week sprint on Shannon, and then a 6-week sprint on Matt Chambers, on that end. It also just means that you're constantly circling the organization as well and keeping your name top of mind.
Yeah, and I think consistency with it is key as well. Like you can't wait probably too long to re-engage with that stakeholder. Like if it's a no now, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a no in 4 weeks' time. It's again time and place for MPC, but consistent driving of your message to other stakeholders in the business is going to keep you top of mind, as Shannon said.
Yeah, just a quick reminder before I take the next question. If you have questions, make sure you're popping them into the Q&A as opposed to the chat feature on that end. I'm in the eye care industry, but there's no way to filter or find that sector. Please advise on how to find my MPC. If it was me, I'd throw it in. If there's no specific industry on it, I'd throw it into just a keyword search. So in the top left, there's a square section where you can add keywords as opposed to sectors, and I'd just look for the different terminology, opticians, eye care, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think even with that industry specific searching is pretty much a replica of what you're going to get from LinkedIn anyway. So I guess kind of if you're doing it in LinkedIn and it's not available as an option in Loxo, then obviously that's something we could probably look into putting into the system, I'd imagine.
Cool. Will Loxo bring a feature to monitor job boards of clients to our list of active roles? We can't say too much on this, but let's just say watch this space on that end.
Thank God you answered that one, because I would have probably said more than I needed to.
Do you include? Yeah, we already asked that. Answered that.
Seeing a few people just messaging in there, just in the chat, saying that will the recording be coming across? Yeah, we will. Sandra just responded, but I think it's came in a few times, so the recording will be sent out after.
Is the idea that you only find contacts via Loxo, but then you'll miss out on those who name the company different? I mean, for me on this one, like it's MPC and ABP, like it's more about kind of being strategic, right? It's not I'm going to jump in quickly and I'm going to run a quick search and I'm going to do this. So that involves like mapping out your market on that end. So you will have some people, and whatever way that you would wish to map that out is going to be unique to your company, your wants and your needs, right? So some ways to do it is you can segment different organizations by their offices, satellite offices, et cetera, et cetera. So if we have Microsoft London versus Microsoft Manchester, for argument's sake, you might choose to separate those and track them differently. Other companies might choose to have one massive umbrella company with different addresses against that. But you will always have, it's the age-old issue with self-reported information. You will always have people who, give some slight variety on their company name, especially when there's sister companies and parent-child companies involved with it as well. So that's why when you're running a search within ABP, you're able to select multiple companies at once. So if you have 5 different variations of Microsoft appearing within your search, you're able to select all 5 of them and then find your decision makers across all 5 companies once. Then, can we see when a company received funding? Not, correct me if I'm wrong here, Colin, not specifically when they received funding. You can see if they have and when they were founded.
It will tell you what stage of funding they're currently at.
Yeah. When we bulk email through Loxo, will it show our sent emails in Outlook? If your Outlook is synced, then yes, it will. Yeah. I've sent campaigns and received emails that are not valid, bounce backs. If you ask this into Artemis or into support, when we enrich contact information, we have a setting that we will only enrich verified emails. On that end, if you mistype somebody's email in, or they provide you an incorrect email, there's no safeguard against that. But that's the same on anything really. Where do the companies come from? Are the only companies in Loxo or all companies? I see one of my clients, I've had an issue. So cool. So do you want to take that one, Colin? Where do we find the companies?
Where do we find the company? So
Yeah.
Loxo's sources database is basically extracting from over 150 different data sources. So all of the information that we pull is publicly available information, and it comes into one centralized source. So if you think of LinkedIn as like one of 150 different data sources, that's essentially where the information is coming from.
Yeah. So you can have obviously Loxo sources, Colin just mentioned there. You can also add your own companies in, either companies that you migrate across from your previous system or manually add, or you use a CSV or anything like that on that end. So you can invite companies in from Loxo source into your own environment, and then you're able to distinguish what stage within the life cycle or what type of a customer they are, whether they have an active role, whether they're a prospect, a lead, an active customer, a churned customer, whatever way that you want to view it on that end. So Julie, if you're having issues with that, again, I'd recommend you hop on one of our training webinars with Dan the man, and he'd be able to show you exactly how to go through that.
Just a reminder, I think all the questions are being spoken aloud from Shannon from the Q&A section. I think some people are bypassing that.
One second. I use Zoom Info and PCR. Is it a fair assumption that Loxo combines the capabilities of these? Does Loxo integrate with RingCentral? Do you want to take that, Colin?
So yeah, Loxo integrates with RingCentral first and foremost. So yeah, depending on where you are in the world, I think it will integrate from from a calling and SMS piece as well. So, what was the front of that question, Shannon? Sorry.
I use Zoom Info and PCR, PC Recruiter.
PC Recruiter.
Yeah.
It all depends, because you don't want to rip something out for someone that provides value. You know, people always ask us the same question when it comes to LinkedIn. Can this replace LinkedIn for us? If you're making 100% of your revenue from those platforms, then it'd be very foolish of us to say to rip that out and that we would replace it. But it's kind of a in time kind of thing. If you adopt it, you'll know where the value of your business sits. Is it going to be through ABP and Loxo or through Zoom Info? From a contact perspective, because probably that's going to be the feed-on question to that in terms of contact scraping and where we get our data. Zoom Info went through ICP. They're a massive company. Their data is pretty strong. Our data is pretty strong as well, but we'd probably be best in class for candidate information, because obviously we're a recruitment platform.
Just to piggyback off that as well, companies that take recruitment or otherwise, companies that take a big vested interest in outbound sales will invest in multiple contact enrichment tools. Right. Yeah. So Zoom Info is one of many on that end. There's entire products and solutions such as Clay, which basically bring multiple contact enrichment tools together. So basically, the more you have, the less chance that you have, and the less stones that are going to be left unturned, so to speak. But that being said, Zoom Info and multiple contact enrichment tools are a big investment, so it might make more sense financially to strip that down and use a consolidated system like Loxo, but it's very subjective on that end. Is there or will there be a tool in Loxo that will help map the org chart of a company? Again, not too much to say on this point, but watch this space. 2026 is going to be a big year overall.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
by adding people to a campaign via Loxo source, does it automatically add their email address? Otherwise, it doesn't speed things up as far as outreach. So you could do this via a job if you would. So if you set the stages on your job so that when you select yes for somebody, you can have it trigger at the point of yes. It will add it to your shortlist or whatever that stage is called in your environment. It will automatically enrich their email address, and you can also set a further automation against that stage to also automatically add them into a job campaign to do it that way. If you wanted to do it not just on yes, what you could do is you could select people in bulk and then add to a list and then add them, or bulk move them across the specific stage in your workflow in which that automation happens. So when sending an MPC summary to a company, I don't have a service agreement in place. Should I start with the hiring manager, CEO, HR director, manager, et cetera, et cetera? Do you want to take that one, Colin?
Yeah. What were they saying when I don't have a what in place?
A service agreement. They don't have terms in place.
Yeah, so I can only speak from experience with this. Anytime I was sending out an MPC, we always had to protect the candidate at that point in time, because although we're servicing them out to the market, there's no active vacancy, and you have to factor in multiple different things, especially in Europe with GDPR. So we'd anonymize. In my experience in recruitment, I'm speaking to multiple recruitment leaders. A lot of will anonymize that profile or that CV or resume, so that certain things are hidden, but the impactful stuff is there for them to basically respond and come back. But I would, yeah, you don't have to. The whole purpose of MPC and speccing is that you probably don't have a service agreement in place with a lot of these businesses today. That's what you're trying to get, essentially, is the goal.
Yeah. Can the pitches feature in the deal section help when it comes to tracking your BD activity?
You probably use pitches more than I do. I use the sale.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
No,
use that.
I can take that one, no problem. Yeah, that's exactly what it's been designed for, Thomas. So whereas your deal section is to track your potential opportunities that you have with clients, your pitches are to track your MPCs or your spec apes, as we call it, this side of the Atlantic on that end. So if you have a candidate that invariably is going to, or has a very high likelihood of converting into a fee, you just haven't found a home for them yet, and you want to be able to track that candidate through pipeline, basically that's exactly what the pitches section is for, based off that end. Do you have anything to add there, Colin, on that?
No, that's exactly what it's built for. Yeah, it's just managing that person through a funnel until you get the end result that you're looking for, which is obviously taking on a new vacancy and expanding into the business.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Do you not think if everyone uses the same growth hiring signals, it comes to a point when top prospects get contacts too much, this post fails in comparison to spray and pray, which gives randomness, too many people doing the right thing, value disappears?
You'll have to take, I don't know what you just said there.
Yeah, so I think they're saying that if is there value in doing spray and pray if everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet and everybody's doing it that way? I think personally, Sergey, I disagree, and the reason, and that doesn't make me right, like it's an opinion. But the reason that I would say that is because if you're going after 5, 10, 20 companies a month or a quarter or whatever way that you want to focus on it, right? And you're giving those companies your full undivided attention, you're going to have a much better chance of winning a good client. Like, it's all well and good getting more clients, but a lot of us don't want more clients. We want more of the right clients, the clients that are going to work with us, they're going to build a relationship with us last term, and let's be real, will pay us on time as well. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're coming at it from this approach. Like spray and pray, it's a handful of darts. If you throw it, something might land. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get 60, 60, 50, right? On that end. I don't think I darted right there, but on that end. But if that approach works for you, far be it from us to tell you different.
Yeah, I think the approach to it is like 80% of your outbound effort should be focused on the right accounts. And then you'll see things in the market that you have to kind of pivot towards, and that's okay. But the 80% should be like, realistically, if you look at 2025, how many net new customers did you bring in? It wasn't 500, it wasn't 1,000, you know, there was a handful of accounts, probably depending on what market you're in. So having the tailored approach means that you're going to, as Shannon was trying to use a terrible dart analogy for, is you're pinpointed on what you want to go after, and these are accounts that are going to do what you want to do, and that's why you want to work with them. So that's the difference.
Yeah. If a candidate is already in your system with an old profile, how will it know if they are working at a new company? So as part of our service offering, we have Loxo Source, which is our own data enrichment tool. So our data engineers are constantly keeping that up to date as we're going. So we're able to see that you have a matching record of that same candidate or contact. We've just seen the new update go against their profile, and yours is still dated. We're able to make that leap and then update that candidate or client within your own account as well. I'd say we probably have time for one, maybe two more questions there. So I'm just going to try and find cool. Searching by companies means you have to find one contact at a time. Can you not search for people and job titles based off the company location? You could. You also have the option to select multiple companies. So you could search by a person as opposed to a company. You also have the option to be able to search by multiple companies and then find all of the relevant stakeholders against a certain job title or location as well. I'll say we'll probably have to leave it there. There's about 25 questions left, and I'm trying to find the most relevant one, but we're running out of time. I'd appreciate everyone joining today. So far, I've had a great time in any case. Any questions that are unanswered, or if you are having any difficulty, just a reminder, Sandra, if you can drop Dan's daily training webinars as well, you're able to contact, and I'll put this into the chat as well, support@loxo.co.
Yes, and I'll be sending out an email within a few days with a recording of this call, as well as some additional resources about ABP and about email deliverability. So if you have specific questions, please do reach out to support. They can provide more information. And I hope this has been helpful for everyone. So we'll see you next month with a new webinar, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.